Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing a Murder. And I don't usually cover these type of stories, but I know, like you and many people around the world, we are rooting for these rich, wealthy guys that took a submersible down to up to 13,000 feet in order to go check out the Titanic wreckage. So we're told that they actually put the submarine, or I'm sorry, guys, the submersible into the waters around 6 a.m. Thursday morning. And then it started its descent a few hours later around 8 a.m. Those are just estimates as for right now. And as this submersible made its descent downwards towards the historical Titanic, which they were expected to descend about 2.5 hours down, they were a quarter of a way from the bottom, is what we're told. We're not certain if that's true or not, but they were close to being down there. And so, about an hour and 45 minutes down, they lose contact with this submersible by the name of Titan. What we're hearing is like 7 to 8 hours later that they actually report that they're not able to get in contact with this submersible. Once they did, they get in contact with the Coast Guard and many people, even military from other nations that have pitched in, joined in, like Canada and France, and pitched in to try to help find this submersible because we don't know what happened to it. So they're trying to figure out what in the world happened that they lost contact. Did it implode? Did it get stuck? Did it lose power? One thing the CEO said is if this vehicle lost power, that shouldn't be a problem. In fact, they have several things with this experimental submersible that will actually help propel it back up to the top if something were to go wrong. And we'll go through that in just a second. Now, they had just over 90 hours of oxygen on board. This has been critical to the timing and the searching to try to get this submersible found and find a way to get it back up to the surface if they can, if it's intact. There's a chance that they could be alive and well down there, but they're on a time limit. First of all, they were not prepared to be down there for days. So they are limited in food and water. It's super cold down there, so they could freeze to death. If they lost power, it's going to be completely dark. And if they had a leak, well, they could have imploded at any moment. So one of the things that they're searching for by air, they're looking for bits and pieces of debris that might signal, where this submersible might be, if it tried to resurface, if it is resurfaced, and they're just not able to get a hold of it. They also are trying to get equipment out there, which is taking days because it's coming from the East Coast, like a submersible robot that's able to go that deep. But you got to think, we got submarines and stuff they're saying cannot go that deep. They go, usually the average is 1,000 feet, possibly 2,000 feet, but definitely not 12 and 13,000 feet. So here we are, Thursday. We're at the point to where if they are alive, that this crew, their oxygen could be depleted or depleting. And here we are close to noon, and we're finding out that they might have found some debris that might be tied to this submersible that they've been looking for. We're not sure yet. We're waiting on a live report from the Coast Guard at this time. So here's some clips. These are a few news clips that I found that I thought might be helpful to those of you that are interested in this story. First, about the CEO, Stockton Rush.
To develop previous vessels. Everett-based OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush has dual degrees in aerospace engineering and business, and according to reports, patterned himself after Star Trek's Captain Kirk wanting to explore new environments in advanced craft.
There are not a lot of places where you can get titanium, carbon fiber, stainless steel, done to aerospace quality. The Seattle area is pretty key for that.
There is a lot of concern as to whether or not the CEO took into account the safety of this vehicle when taking this submersible to the depths he does.
Fox 13 News spoke with Rush several years ago. OceanGate is located in Everett and has worked with Boeing and the University of Washington. Officials with the University of Washington tell me they did not work on the missing Titan sub. Officials I spoke to with Boeing did not provide any comments and deferred to OceanGate. The Titan set out with a 5-man crew to explore the Titanic wreckage this past weekend. Rush was joined on board by British billionaire adventurer Hamish Harding, one of Pakistan's richest men, Shahzada Dawood, and his 19-year-old son, Solomon Dawood, and French explorer and Titanic expert Paul-Henri Najoulet. All are feared to be missing.
Estimates, there's potentially less than 24 hours of oxygen supply left on board that missing submersible. A multinational search is now expanding. Madison Scarpino reports.
The U.S. Coast Guard and Canadian forces deploying more assets to join the search for a missing submersible in the Atlantic Ocean. Officials say 3 new vessels arrived on scene Wednesday, including the John Cabot, which has sonar technology capable of detecting objects on the seafloor. Crews now combing an area 2 times the size of Connecticut to locate the Titan sub and its 5 passengers.
The Unified Command team is working tirelessly to bring all available assets and expertise to bear as quickly as possible in response to this complex operation.
Meanwhile, the Coast Guard says Canadian surveillance aircraft detected underwater noises in the search area for a second day on Wednesday.
So they heard noises, what they described as banging, yet at one point they suggested they might be timed and in a pattern, and then another time they will say, we have no idea what it is. But it's good that they treated it as if it might mean something. There's also been some interesting interviews, one of which was with News Nation, and he gives us an example of what they are looking for in the area they're dealing with.
Well, when the Admiral said it's a remote place, he was sort of, I think, underplaying it. Remote means, imagine it's on the far side of the moon. That's basically as remote as it gets. Because when you go 2 miles deep, even if we could find them, which is questionable, we got to get to them. And only a very few number of ships can get out there. So they need to get to the east coast of the United States or Canada and then transit out, which is going to take a couple of days. You can see from your chart there, it's about 400 miles. These ships typically don't go all that fast. And so it's going to take a day, day and a half to get out there. And then they got to somehow get a hook onto this thing with a cable that's 2 miles long and draw the thing up. So I am fearful for the people in the submarine.
So we're hearing that this company, OceanGate, that is over the Titanic, has a variety of opinions on how long they've been going. So it's gone from like 5 to 2 years. So here's a little bit of history.
That's from the massive ship that sunk in 1912. OceanGate Expedition started this tour a couple years ago as a way to track the Titanic's deterioration. The company operates a submersible called the Titan, which can submerge to a depth of roughly 13,000 feet. And there's usually a mix of archaeologists, marine biologists, and tourists in the 5-man crew.
The interest in the Titanic is the reason we go there. Almost nowhere else in the deep ocean can you get funding to go back every year for decades and see how coral reefs develop and see how metals decay and see how currents change.
Yes, this is a ship designed to bring tourists to the Titanic, and in a pretty unconventional way.
Taking a completely new approach to the sub design, and it's all run with this game controller and these touch screens. So if you want to go forward, you press forward. If you want to go back, you go back, turn left, turn right, go down, go up. And it's Bluetooth, so I can hand it to anybody.
From what we know, Titan had already made this trip several times this year. But let's be clear here. This is a very remote area, and the ocean floor where the Titanic wreckage is about 13,000 feet deep.
While parts of this submersible is titanium and made of some of the best materials available on Earth, some of it might be a little dollar store, or others just an experiment. They have no idea how it's going to react at those depths. No doubt the CEO, he's a salesman. He can sell this product and make people believe that you can go down even if your life is threatened and still feel okay. There's a waiver that each passenger has to sign before going on this massive adventure. And it's basically stating that things can happen, and they might, and you could die, and you can't sue us. So right now we have some interesting breaking news, and we're waiting right now for Coast Guards to come forward and share the information about this bits of debris that they believe could belong to the Titan. And right now, many people are speculating, is this a debris field that's like breadcrumbs that's just leading them to the intact vehicle? Or is it debris left over from a catastrophic event? We just don't know. We're hoping that this is a miracle and there's a happy ending. But here's a few clips from a few news sources out there speculating.
It seems as though those hopes are being dashed.
That would be my reading of it, frankly. The use of the word debris, the fact they've tweeted this information out, which they clearly regard as significant in terms of the public realm. The word debris doesn't sound good at all in a situation and at a depth where the water pressure is huge, 38 bar. I mean, that's many times the pressure inside your car tire. It can do considerable damage to vessels the like of the Titan, on the seabed 4,000 meters down. So should the worst have happened to the Titan, and we don't know if that's the case yet, that's to be confirmed, but should the worst have happened and that vessel was broken up somehow by the pressures at that depth, then the word debris would absolutely fit that worst case scenario. There is due to be a news conference. I'm outside the Coast Guard Command Center here in Boston. We expect to hear from them publicly on the record sometime soon, but this news doesn't sound good. It reads in a very dark way. The detail presumably will be fleshed out in time, and indeed they are still analysing what has been found. This is a day, remember, when 2 remotely operated vehicles were sent into the depths, to the search area, following the path line of the Titan. So today, really for the first time, they had the proper kit available to them, the proper kit with camera and sonar capabilities that would have enabled searchers to look effectively for the Titan.
We have a storm coming up, so what I'm going to do is play this where they got this heads up idea that maybe this was a catastrophic event, but you never know. You can't say someone's guilty until you're proven it guilty, but we can say it doesn't look great. So here we go.
Out in the Atlantic, and there's information that says that this debris field is part
being
of
relayed
the
from
Titan.
the ships.
So what are you hearing?
It's being relayed from the ships to the president of the Explorers Club, who's been across this entire thing for the past several days, that what has been found in terms of debris is the landing frame and also a rear cover. So it means the actual hull hasn't yet been found, but two very important parts of the whole system have been discovered, and that would not be found unless it's fragmented. It's come apart.
So this picture here we're seeing now, that's the landing frame you're talking about.
At the bottom, yes. And it sits on that, it's bolted to that, and that's how it docks itself into the launch and recovery system. And then the back sort of like fishtail shape, that's essentially what we call a fairing. Inside of that will be electronics and all sorts of things, and that's a fairing just to make it smooth. It's a cover that was bolted, but it comes off, relatively easy. So if the fairing is off and the frame is off, well, something very bad has happened to the entire structure.
Right.
So on the news that we have yet, they haven't found the hull of which the men are inside.
But what does it suggest, the information you're getting now, what does it suggest to you that has happened?
Something catastrophic. These things are not, they're not connected to the rest of the frame or the structure just by, masking tape. They're bolted, there are many bolts. There'll be an important part of the structure. The whole weight of the hull, which is the heaviest bit, is resting on that frame. So the brackets that tie that frame to the rest of the hull, you can see those rings around it, are key structural elements of this configuration. Right. And for that frame to be separated from the hull is not good.
And what was the other bit?
The fairing, the thing that says OceanGate Titan.
Right.
So that's just the shape.
He says that's just the shape they make to look cool. So we don't know that for a fact, but you got to think about it. If you take that cover off and you look underneath, I just don't see how that stuff can hold up to the pressures and stuff that it's being, subjected to. So this is what they're saying that they believe that they found so far. And this is what I have for now. We're still waiting on the Coast Guard, and it's probably going to come out as this uploads. But we are hearing that the hull hasn't been found yet. And what can pressure do to this titanium hull once, all these airtight areas, these bolts have been breached? And I wondered if they had, you could see the base. So you had the base, which is tied to the circular or the cylinder hull. Is that bolted on there in a circle? And this was a concern for me, because if you go down to those depths, are these, is any of this titanium, does it, shrink any? And if that's the case, since it's a circle, it's going to loosen up all the way around. So hopefully we have someone that knows about this come forward and share as we go along here. The worst part about this is the fact that I was hoping they would find these guys, and I'm still hoping there's a miracle. All right, guys, I'll see you guys later on after the Coast Guard has spoken. Make sure you share your thoughts below. I would love to know what you guys think. See you later.